Do you occasionally go through those darker periods of life where you're really struggling to maybe find meaning? Everything just feels like a grind. You're just like, fuck, what is this? Well, I find that what helps me is being able to draw upon ancient wisdom from the past, from human beings who have lived thousands of years before us, who have discovered tried and true, timeless wisdom that we can apply to our lives, which is still relevant. And in this book from the great psychologist and sociologist, Jonathan Haidt, The Happiness Hypothesis, it basically does just that. It basically talks about, in this book, ancient wisdom from many different cultures which have found an overlap between certain principles and certain pillars of what it means to live a happy and thriving, purposeful, fulfilled life, and how that can be applied today in our modern lives. And in the book, he's got about 10 or so major pillars that he touches on, and I'll share just a few which really resonated with me. So one of the concepts he talks about is what he calls the divided mind. So basically the emotional, animalistic part of the mind and the logical, rational, and reasoning part of the mind, and how the two overlap and how they both relate to one another. And he uses two metaphors from a couple of different cultures. One was Greek culture, I believe, who uses the metaphor of the horse and chariot rider, and another culture, Hindu, I believe, where they talk about the elephant and the elephant rider. And this metaphor basically talks about the horse chariot and the elephant being the emotional part of the brain. So this chaotic animal side, which just wants to devour everything. It's completely out of control if put in the wrong scenario. But then you have the rider, who is the logical and rational part, which is able to guide the elephant or the horse and chariot to where necessary to nourish itself with food or indulge whatever needs, but not to the point of overindulgence and harm. Because if you let the elephant just run astray, it's going to find a shrub, it's going to eat a bunch of food, it's going to get into a fight and lead itself to dangerous territory. So he talks about this sort of duality that we have, and being able to disciplining yourself where the rational and logical mind is completely in control, or as much as possible, of the animalistic and emotional part of the brain, and being able to best guide and be best able to head on the healthiest and happiest path possible. So I thought that was helpful. Another pillar he talks about, which is timeless wisdom, is having quality connections and relationships. Cross-culturally, thousands of years, people basically worked out the people who were happiest and thriving the most were the ones who had an abundance of deep, meaningful human connections and relationships. And one last point he talks about is purposeful and meaningful projects and work. So basically striving for something almost bigger than yourself, or something that gives you a very deep purpose and meaning. I guess that's more bordering onto the more spiritual side. But he says that was a big focus in ancient civilizations and people living better and happy lives when they had purposeful and meaningful work and projects, just things that they're striving towards. Check out the book. It's an awesome read, as well as Jonathan Haidt's work. He's got a bunch of epic contemporary psychological and sociological research that he talks about at the moment, which is some cutting edge stuff. So highly recommend checking out him and all his work, including this book as well. Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt.